Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. My wife gestured to the door and said, "Leave." I looked at her, then at the door, then back at her. "As you wish," I said. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I'd been planning for exactly this moment for 3 months. The moving truck was already scheduled. The storage unit was already rented. The lawyer's retainer was already paid. See, when someone shows you who they are enough times, eventually you start believing them. And when they point you toward the exit, sometimes the smartest thing you can do is take them up on it. Let me back up and explain how a random Tuesday morning turned into the best day of my life. 2.5 years of marriage had taught me pattern recognition. When you're a software engineer, you spend your days identifying bugs and documenting everything. Turns out those same skills work when you're living with someone who treats every conversation like you're on trial. Melissa and I married after 6 months of dating. The first year was fine. I owned a townhouse on Battery Avenue in Federal Hill, bought it 4 years before we met. 3 bedrooms, brick front, my sanctuary. 13 months in, Melissa quit her job as a marketing coordinator. Came home one Tuesday and announced it. "I need to focus on myself," she said. "On us. You quit without discussing it. I don't need your permission, Brian." I'm not saying you need permission. I'm saying big financial decisions affect both of us. "See? You're so controlling." That was the first time she used that word. Over the next year, controlling became her weapon whenever I expressed an opinion or suggested we budget on one income. The pattern emerged slowly. Every morning started the same. I'd wake early, make coffee. Melissa would sleep until 8 or 9, then come downstairs already irritated. Some days it was the dishwasher. Other days, me working from home. Once, throwing away expired yogurt. That was my yogurt. You don't get to decide what I eat. It expired 3 weeks ago. It was growing mold. "You're not my father." These fights lasted 20 minutes to 3 hours. She'd explode from 0 to nuclear, screaming while I tried to figure out what alternate universe I'd entered. Around noon she'd calm down, not apologize, just act like nothing happened. By evening, silent treatment if I hadn't properly atoned. I usually apologized back then. "I'm sorry I upset you," even when I'd done nothing wrong. 2 months ago was the thermostat war. She'd turned heat to 78. I suggested 70 to manage the gas bill. So now I'm not allowed to be comfortable? That's not what I said. Maybe if you made more, it wouldn't be an issue. I made $140,000. We could afford it. That wasn't the point. 6 weeks ago was her birthday. I'd reserved Charleston, expensive restaurant she'd wanted. $300. The whole meal she criticized everything. Table too close to the kitchen. Steak overcooked. Server inattentive. On the drive home, silence. At the house, explosion. "You ruined my birthday. You always ruin everything." I stood there, keys still in hand. "I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it. You thought wrong. You always think wrong." That's when something clicked. I was never going to win. Whatever I did, she'd find fault. The game was rigged. The next day, I suggested marriage counseling. She laughed. "Therapists are for weak people who can't handle their own problems." So I stopped playing and started documenting. I'd kept texts and receipts naturally over the years, but now I organized everything into a formal case. Created a spreadsheet with dates, times, triggers, what she said. Screenshots of texts where she told me she hated me, wished she'd never married me. I documented every time she told me to leave. 3 months ago, I consulted Lisa Rodriguez, divorce attorney. She explained Maryland law. Property owned before marriage stays separate. I bought the house 4 years before meeting Melissa. She'd never contributed to mortgage, repairs, improvements. "You want out," Lisa said. "I want out." She laid out the roadmap. I could file on grounds if I had documentation. I have documentation. I showed her everything. She looked impressed. Most people come with feelings. "You've got dates, exact quotes." I debug software. Same process. Over 3 months, I prepared methodically. Rented a storage unit. Moved important documents to my office. Opened a new account at a different bank. Redirected my paycheck. Found an apartment in Mount Vernon. Signed the lease. Contacted Chesapeake Quick Move. Kyle, the owner, understood. "You need discreet move with short notice. Give me your target date." Last week, I scheduled for Tuesday, January 14th, 10:30. Tuesdays were always bad. Melissa had been escalating. I could always cancel if needed, but I was confident enough to bet on her pattern. Monday, I filed the divorce papers at 7 a.m. By 8, it was done. That brings us to Tuesday morning. I'd gotten up at 6:30 like always, made coffee, settled into my home office to work on a project deadline. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, deep into code, when I felt a presence behind me. I turned around, and there was Melissa, standing in the doorway in her bathrobe, glaring at me. I pulled off my headphones. Morning. You're working from home again? Yeah, I've got a deadline. We talked about this on Sunday, remember? At breakfast? We didn't discuss anything. You just do whatever you want. Here we go, I thought. Right on schedule. We did discuss it. You said fine. Don't tell me what I said. I took a breath, kept my voice calm. I have a security audit due Friday. I need focused time without office interruptions. Working from home makes sense. You're working from home because you want to spy on me. I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. Spy on you doing what? See? You don't even care what I do all day? The logic made my brain hurt. Melissa, I'm literally working. I have headphones on. I couldn't spy on you if I wanted to. You're gaslighting me right now. I'm not gaslighting you. I'm sitting at my desk doing my job. She crossed her arms, that familiar storm building in her eyes. Maybe if you made more money, I wouldn't be stuck in this house all day. You chose to quit your job. You wanted me to quit. You wanted me dependent on you so you could control me. This was new. This was a complete rewrite of history. That is absolutely not true. I begged you not to quit. I have text messages where I begged you not to quit. You're putting words in my mouth. I'm stating facts. This is exactly what I'm talking about, she said, her voice rising. I can't live like this. I can't live with someone who makes me feel like I'm crazy all the time. I stayed quiet. Experience had taught me that engaging at this point only made it worse. But something was different today. Maybe it was the fact that I'd already filed the papers. Maybe it was the knowledge that the moving truck was scheduled for 10:30. Maybe it was just that I'd finally, truly had enough. You know what? She continued. Maybe we should just end this. Maybe you should just leave. I looked at her, really looked at her, saw the manipulation in her eyes, the expectation that I'd scramble to apologize, to promise to do better, to beg her to reconsider. Not today. She walked to the front door, threw it open dramatically. Cold January air rushed into the house. She stood there, arm extended toward the street, like some kind of theatrical director indicating stage exit. There's the door, she said. Leave. I stood up from my desk chair, closed my laptop, looked at her standing there in her bathrobe, pointing at the open door, so certain she held all the power. As you wish, I said. She blinked. What? You want me to leave? As you wish. I'll go pack. I didn't, that's not. You opened the door. You told me to leave. I'm agreeing with you. Her arm dropped to her side. Brian, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You've meant it 17 times in the past 3 months. 17 times you've told me to leave, pack my bags, get out. I've been counting. I was upset. People say things when they're upset. And people eventually start listening to what you say when you say it often enough. I walked past her, heading for the stairs. She followed me, finally closing the door behind her to stop the cold air. What are you doing? You told me to leave. I'm leaving. Not right now. I didn't mean right this second. I stopped on the stairs, turned to look at her. When did you mean? Tomorrow? Next week? Next month? Because you'll say it again tomorrow. And next week. And next month. Eventually I was going to take you seriously. Today's the day. I continued up the stairs. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I'd played this moment in my head 100 times over the past few months. Now that it was actually happening, I felt strangely calm. In the bedroom, I opened the closet and pulled out a large suitcase from the back corner. It was already mostly packed. Clothes, shoes, basic necessities. I'd been keeping it ready, adding to it slowly over the past few weeks. Melissa appeared in the doorway. That suitcase is already packed. Yep. How long has it been packed? Long enough. You were planning to leave. Her voice had gone quiet, uncertain. I was planning to be ready. You made it clear, repeatedly, that you wanted me gone. I decided to respect your wishes. This is insane. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I moved to the bathroom, started collecting my toiletries. Electric toothbrush, deodorant, cologne. Everything went into a separate bag. Brian, stop. Can we just talk about this? We've been talking about it for 2.5 years. I'm done talking. She followed me back into the bedroom. I pulled open my nightstand drawer, took out the things that mattered. The watch my dad gave me before he died. A few family photos. I left the joint photos on the dresser. Those could stay. Where are you even going to go? She asked. I'll figure it out. You don't have anywhere to go. I'll get a hotel. You're being ridiculous. I pulled out my phone, found the contact I'd saved. Melissa watched as I made the call. Chesapeake Quick Move, Kyle speaking. Kyle, this is Brian Foster. I need to confirm my 10:30 appointment. Melissa's eyes went wide. Who are you calling? I held up one finger to her. Yes, the address is Battery Avenue, Federal Hill. Storage unit pickup and delivery to Mount Vernon address. You scheduled movers? Melissa's voice had gone up an octave. When? Perfect, I said to Kyle. See you at 10:30. I ended the call and looked at Melissa. Last week. Last week? But we weren't even fighting last week. Melissa, we're always fighting. Last week was just quieter than usual. So you were planning to leave me. You were planning this. I zipped up the suitcase. I was planning to be prepared for when you told me to leave again. You told me to leave. I was prepared. Here we are. This is crazy. You're overreacting. We're married. Being married doesn't give you the right to treat me like garbage and expect me to take it forever. I don't treat you like garbage. I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. The complete lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. Melissa, you've told me I'm worthless, that you hate me, that I've ruined your life, that you wish you'd never married me. You've started fights over moldy yogurt, thermostat settings, and expired salad dressing. You've made me apologize for taking you to expensive restaurants and buying you birthday gifts. I've walked on eggshells in my own house for over a year, trying to figure out what won't set you off next. And every few weeks, you point to that door and tell me to leave. So yes, you treat me like garbage. She stared at me, mouth working but no sound coming out. And today, I continued, you opened the door and told me to leave. So I'm leaving. Finally. Thank you for the explicit permission. You can't leave. This is your house too. Actually, it's just my house. What? I walked over to the home office, opened the file drawer, and pulled out a folder. Brought it back to the bedroom and opened it on the bed. House deed. My name. Purchased 4 years before we met. Melissa looked at the document like it was written in a foreign language. But we're married. That makes it community property. Not in Maryland. Not for premarital assets. I checked with my lawyer. Your lawyer? You have a lawyer? Had one for 3 months. Paid the retainer in October. Her face went through several color changes. White to red to purple. 3 months? You've been planning this for 3 months? I've been preparing for this possibility since I realized the game was rigged. Actively planning for 3 months. What does that mean, preparing? I showed her the mortgage statements. Mortgage is in my name. Has been since I bought the place. You've never made a payment. You've never contributed to repairs, to improvements, to anything. I lived here. I'm your wife. You lived here as my guest. A guest who told me repeatedly that she wanted me gone. That's not, you can't just. I can. And I am. She sank down onto the bed, the fight draining out of her. What about our joint account? You mean the checking account where I deposit my paycheck and you spend it? That's our money. It's my money that I've been letting you access. I'm closing it tomorrow morning. That's financial abuse. That's called protecting myself from someone who told me to leave. You don't get to kick me out and keep spending my money. What about my car? The Honda CR-V that's titled in my name? That I'm still making payments on. She went very quiet. Yeah, I said. I've been making those payments too. $530 a month for the past 2 years. You want to guess how that's going to work now that you've told me to leave? How am I supposed to get around? Not my problem to solve. You're the one who wanted me gone. She started crying. Not the manipulative crying she usually deployed, but genuine panicky tears. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it. You've said it 17 times, Melissa. 17. I started counting after the first dozen because I figured I should keep track. You know what I realized? You didn't just mean it. You wanted it. You wanted me gone, but you wanted to keep the house, the car, the money. You wanted all the benefits with none of the consequences. That's not true. Then why did you keep saying it? Why did you keep pointing to that door? I was upset. I was emotional. You're supposed to know I don't mean it. I looked at her. This woman I'd married 2.5 years ago. This person I barely recognized anymore. Here's the thing about words, Melissa. They matter. When you say something often enough, people start believing you. I started believing you. Right at 10:30, there was a sound from outside. The deep rumble of a large engine. I walked to the window and looked out. Perfect timing. The white moving truck from Chesapeake Quick Move was backing into our narrow street. Air horn giving a short blast to warn parked cars. "Oh my God," Melissa whispered, joining me at the window. "Oh my God, there's actually a truck. I told you I wasn't bluffing. This can't be happening." "It's happening." I picked up my suitcase and headed for the stairs. Melissa followed, her crying getting louder now, more desperate. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Kyle Peterson standing there with a clipboard and a younger guy I assumed was his assistant. Kyle was in his 40s, built like someone who'd spent his life moving heavy furniture, with the kind of weathered face that said he'd seen every variety of domestic drama imaginable. "Mr. Foster? That's me. Thanks for coming." "No problem. This the address?" He showed me the clipboard. "That's it." Melissa pushed past me. "This is a misunderstanding. He doesn't really want to leave." Kyle glanced at me, then at Melissa, then back at me with an expression that said he'd definitely heard this song before. "Sir, we just move belongings. We don't get involved in domestic situations. If you're telling me to move your things, we move your things. If you're not, we don't." "I'm telling you to move my things," I said calmly. "Everything on that list I sent you." "Wait," Melissa said. "What list?" I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and showed Kyle the message I'd sent last week. General categories and major items that belonged to me. Bedroom furniture set, bought before marriage, receipts attached. Office desk and chair, purchased with my credit card, receipts attached. Tools from the basement workshop, accumulated over years, receipts for the expensive ones. The TV from the den that I'd bought 2 years ago. My bicycle from the garage. Boxes of personal items from the storage closet. "You made a list?" Melissa's voice had gone hollow. "You made an actual itemized list?" "I document everything. You know that about me." Kyle was looking over the email on his phone. "This is thorough, sir. Most people just tell us what they want. This has serial numbers and everything. I like to be prepared." "You're taking all that," Melissa said. "Where am I supposed to sit? Where am I supposed to sleep?" "On the couch. Or you could go stay with your sister. Or anywhere else. Not my concern anymore. You can't leave me with nothing. I'm leaving you with everything that's yours. You just don't own much because you've never bought anything. You moved in here with a suitcase and an old car that died 6 months later. Everything else in this house, I bought." Kyle cleared his throat. "Sir, we should get started if you want to make the storage unit by noon." "Absolutely. Let's do this." Kyle gestured to his assistant, Tommy, and they headed inside. Melissa was still standing in the doorway, now crying freely, making these awful sobbing sounds that would have moved me 3 months ago. Now they just sounded like static. I went back upstairs to grab a few more things. When I came back down, Tommy was already disassembling the bed frame in the guest bedroom. The bed I'd slept in for most of the past year because Melissa would get too hot if I was in bed with her. Melissa tried to block Tommy from carrying out the dresser. "This is our furniture." "It's my furniture," I said. "IKEA order from 3 years ago. Want to see the receipt?" She didn't answer, just stood there crying while Tommy carried the dresser past her. That's when I heard a familiar voice from outside. "Moving day, Brian?" I walked out to see Thomas Brennan, my elderly neighbor from 2 doors down. He'd given me sympathetic looks for months whenever we crossed paths. Now I understood why. He was standing on the sidewalk with his ancient beagle, Barney, watching the proceedings with undisguised interest. "Yes, sir. Finally getting some peace." "Good for you, son." He glanced back at the house where Melissa was visible in the doorway, still crying. "That screaming kept me up at night, you know? Whole block could hear it. Every night for months." Melissa's crying stopped abruptly. She stared at Thomas. "You could hear us?" "Young lady, everyone could hear you. You've got a set of lungs on you. My wife had to close our windows even in summer because of the noise." Melissa's face went from devastated to mortified in about half a second. She stepped back inside and slammed the door. Thomas shook his head. "My wife and I have been married 43 years. Know what the secret is. Treating each other with basic human decency. Don't let anyone tell you that leaving makes you the bad guy. Sometimes leaving is the bravest thing you can do." Thank you, Mr. Brennan. You take care of yourself. He walked off with Barney, and I went back inside. The living room was already looking bare. They'd taken the TV stand, the end tables, the bookshelves. All mine, purchased before Melissa was even in the picture. Kyle came down from upstairs. Got the bedroom furniture loaded. Your office stuff next? That's right. Where's she going to sleep? Melissa said from where she'd curled up on the couch, one of the few pieces of furniture that was staying because I'd bought it specifically for her. Guilt purchase after one of our fights. On that couch, I said, or at your sister's place. I really don't care. How can you be so cold? I'm not being cold. I'm being done. My phone rang. I checked the caller ID. Diana. Melissa's sister. I answered. Brian, what the hell are you doing? Diana's voice came through sharp and accusatory. I'm moving out. Melissa just called me sobbing. She said you're taking everything. I'm taking what's mine. You can't just abandon your wife. I'm not abandoning her. She told me to leave. I'm respecting her wishes. She didn't mean it. Then she shouldn't have said it. 17 times. 17? What are you talking about? Ask your sister how many times she's told me to pack my bags and leave. Ask her how many times she's pointed at the door. Ask her how many nights she's screamed at me for things like throwing away moldy food or adjusting the thermostat. Then ask yourself if you'd stay in that situation. Silence on the line. Then, she can come stay with me. That's very kind of you. This isn't over, Brian. Actually, Diana, it is. I hung up. Melissa was staring at me. You told Diana about the fights? I told Diana the truth. She's going to think I'm crazy. She should think about why her sister finds it acceptable to treat people the way you've treated me. Tommy and Kyle were now loading my desk and office chair onto the truck. The tools from my basement workshop, expensive contractor-grade equipment I'd bought for woodworking, a hobby I'd abandoned because Melissa complained about the noise. The bicycle I hadn't ridden in over a year because every time I tried to go for a ride, she'd manufacture some crisis that required my immediate attention. It took about 90 minutes to load everything. Melissa stayed on the couch the whole time, alternating between crying and staring at her phone. At one point I heard her typing furiously, probably texting Diana or one of her friends. I didn't care. Let her tell whatever story she wanted. I had documentation. When the truck was loaded, Kyle came back inside. That's everything on your list, Mr. Foster. Storage unit on Route 40, then delivery to the Mount Vernon address, correct? That's correct. Mount Vernon. Melissa's head snapped up. You have an apartment in Mount Vernon? Signed the lease last week. Last week. Before this fight. Before I told you to leave. I told you, I was preparing. You've been threatening to kick me out for months. I decided to call your bluff. This wasn't a bluff. This was just a fight. No, Melissa. This was a pattern. A pattern I'm finally ending. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. Sir, if you're ready. One more thing. I walked over to where my keys hung by the door. Melissa's keys were there too. House key, car key to the Honda that was about to be repossessed. I took my house key off my ring. What are you doing? Melissa stood up from the couch. Returning the key to my house. That's my key. No. It's my house key that I let you use. I'm taking it back. She lunged for it, but I pulled my hand back before she could reach it. Kyle, would you mind holding this for a moment? Kyle caught the key I tossed him, looking bemused. Sure thing, boss. Melissa turned on me, and for a second I saw genuine fury break through the crying. You bastard. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You told me to leave. You opened that door this morning and said leave. I'm leaving. You're getting exactly what you asked for. I'll take you for everything. With what lawyer? You don't have a job, remember? You don't have any money of your own. And since this house is mine, the car is mine, and the accounts are mine, I'm really curious how you plan to finance this legal battle you're threatening. Her mouth opened and closed. She was cycling through options in her head, trying to find an angle that worked. I'll get a job. I'll figure it out. Good for you. Fresh start. Maybe employment will give you some perspective. I pulled one more thing out of my jacket pocket. A manila envelope, business size. I handed it to her. What is this? Divorce papers. Filed yesterday morning at 7 a.m. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. You filed yesterday morning? Before our fight? I filed yesterday morning because we fight every morning. I knew we'd fight today. I just didn't know you'd make it this easy by literally telling me to leave. She tore open the envelope, scanned the first page. You're citing abandonment? No. I'm citing irreconcilable differences and requesting equitable distribution of marital property, which, since I owned everything before we married and you've contributed nothing, means I keep what's mine and you keep what's yours. You can't. I can. I did. You have 60 days to respond. My lawyer's information is in there. Have your lawyer contact her. Oh wait, you don't have a lawyer. Or money to get one. That's going to be a problem for you. I walked toward the door where Kyle was waiting. Melissa followed me. Please, she said, her voice breaking. Please don't do this. We can work it out. We can go to counseling. I suggested counseling repeatedly. You said therapists were for weak people who couldn't solve their own problems. I'll go now. I promise. Too late. I'm done making promises I can't keep. And you're done making ones you won't. I love you. I stopped, turned to look at her one last time. No, you don't. You love what I provide. You love having someone to blame for everything wrong in your life. You love having a target for your rage. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent the last year and a half trying to destroy me piece by piece. That's not. Goodbye, Melissa. Kyle cleared his throat from behind me. We're all loaded up, Mr. Foster. Heading to the storage unit now. He walked past us to his truck, Tommy already in the passenger seat. I walked out the door, literally through the door she'd pointed to this morning, and got in my Camry. Kyle's truck rumbled to life and pulled away from the curb. I followed it, checking my rearview mirror once. Melissa was standing in the doorway of what used to be our house, watching me drive away. I didn't look back again. The storage unit took an hour to unload. The apartment in Mount Vernon, beautiful old building with high ceilings. They set up my bed, desk, basics in another hour. When they left, I sat in my new apartment in complete silence. No screaming, no manufactured drama, no walking on eggshells. My phone buzzed. Melissa, rapid-fire texts. 2:47 p.m. You can't do this to me. I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow. 6:19 p.m. I'm sorry. Please come back. You're a coward. 11:14 p.m. I can't sleep in this house alone. I blocked her number. Jeremy called around midnight. Diana posted on Facebook earlier today that you abandoned Melissa. What's really going on? I told him everything. I'm proud of you, he said. Took you long enough. Took me as long as it took. Need anything? Got my place, my stuff, my sanity back. That's all I need. I slept better than I had in years. 3 days later, Diana showed up at my building. I was returning from a run when I saw her waiting. We need to talk about what you did. I didn't do anything. She told me to leave. I left. You can't abandon your spouse over one argument. It wasn't one argument. It was 2.5 years of daily warfare. She didn't mean it. Then she shouldn't say things she doesn't mean. Diana crossed her arms. She's devastated. She cried when I lived there too. It's a tactic. That's cruel. You want cruel? Try living with someone who manufactures problems from nothing, who threatens to leave constantly, then acts shocked when you finally listen. Marriage is hard work. Marriage is partnership. What I had was emotional hostage situation. She has no money. She can get a job, like she had before voluntarily quitting. She quit because you wanted her to. That's a lie. I have texts begging her not to quit. Want to see them? Diana faltered. She wants to work things out. She wants my bank account. There's a difference. Your sister pointed me to the door and told me to leave. I was smart enough to walk through it. She left without another word. 1 week later, I met with Lisa Rodriguez. She hasn't responded to the papers. Still has 5 weeks. What if she fights? With what argument? Maryland is no fault. No kids. House is yours pre-marriage. She has no income, contributed nothing. 3 attorneys already declined her case. 1 called to verify your documentation was real. What did you tell them? Sent them copies. They advised their client to sign and move on. Timeline. If she doesn't respond in 60 days, we petition for default judgment. You'd be divorced by April latest. Is it always this clean? Lisa smiled. Only when someone prepares like you did. Most people act emotionally. You treated it like a project. 6 weeks after moving out, Thomas Brennan texted. Wanted you to know your ex-wife moved out last week. Had to, I imagine, couldn't afford the place. Neighborhood is peaceful again. You did the right thing. The next 8 weeks passed quietly. I settled into new life. Started woodworking again, went cycling weekends in Patapsco Valley State Park, Reconnected with friends. My coworker Kara noticed. You seem lighter. Divorce finalized yesterday. Congratulations, or sorry. Congratulations. Best thing that happened to me. 3 months after leaving, I saw Melissa at the grocery store. She was getting into a borrowed car. We looked at each other across the parking lot. I waited for anger, satisfaction, something. Nothing. Just neutral. She was a stranger now. People ask if I regret it. The answer is always no. She gave me 17 chances to leave. The only regret is not taking her up on it sooner. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When they point you to the door, sometimes the bravest thing is walking through it. I didn't abandon my marriage. I accepted an invitation repeated so many times it became a standing offer. The day I said, as you wish, and meant it was the day I got my life back. That door she pointed to? It wasn't an exit from happiness. It was an entrance to peace. 6 months later, I'm sleeping through every night. Reconnecting with hobbies. Seeing friends without guilt. Living without eggshells, explosions, manufactured crises. I'm free. Every morning, I wake in my quiet apartment, make coffee without anyone screaming, start my day without drama. I think about that Tuesday in January. Melissa at the door, arm extended, so certain she held all the power. There's the door, she'd said. Leave. Best advice anyone ever gave me. I walked through that door into the best life I never knew I could have. As you wish, indeed. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.
이제는 뭐 잘하지도 않더라.
에?
이제는 별로 잘하지도 않더라.
오호. 사장님, 그래도, 응? 저 있을 때 많이 뽑았잖아요. 가자. 아이고. 잠깐만. 근데 우리는 이거를 도파민으로 해서 저걸 해주는 거라 일단은 저걸로 찍을게요. 붙이려고. 금방 갈게.